Hello ladies and gentlemen, so this is Sayyam Jha and I'm back with another video. Now, considering the previous 3 videos and response on, the first video being amazing, over the top, I'm back with another video. Although a bit off topic, off ambience, it's about before you vote. Now, we all know that what people call as semi-finals before the general elections are approaching and the general elections of 2019 are approaching, it becomes imperative for every one of us to think about what or whom we are going to vote for. But in India specifically, this has been one key issue which most of the Indian citizens have disregarded. Most of the people don't care about what they are voting for. The face value to which they give their votes to is predominant over the policy analysis or the risk versus benefit of voting to that party. So let's discuss into details about what you must think before you go out to vote on that election day in 2019 or in the state assembly elections. Now, the best and the most basic example which I can give you where how votings can go is in United States of America. Before the voting even begins, the campaigning, the debates, the discourse and the implementation, the policy analysis are so in details and depths that people realize what they are gaining for, the congressmen whom they are giving their votes for. For example, this midterms, you may have seen tons of debates between congressmen and contestants for that one simple vote which one of those citizens were going to cast. But in India, on the contrary, we don't even see who the MP is or who is fighting elections from our very own constituency. Now, a basic disclaimer, this video is not to influence you to vote for this one specific party or person. This has nothing to do with politics, it's about how you should analyze and think about your own politics. So let's get started. The first and basic essence of a political party in India is its policy. Now, before you go out to vote, you need to keep these two things in mind. What is the party policy which you are going to vote for, and if that policy according to you is good or relevant to India's standard today. Now, in India, no one actually reads or even considers interpreting the manifestos before the elections. Most of the manifestos are basically mere rhetorics, in India at least. In very few cases we have seen that a manifesto has come out with clear-cut good substance. That is something which is in its very basic necessity is lacking in India. Let's get this straight. When you go out to vote for a specific party, suppose XYZ or ABC, you need to realize what the policy will be after they are elected to power for 5 years, right? If you're giving them your vote, you need to know what they will do for the next 5 years. For example, supposing a party comes up to power on basic promises of healthcare, but they showcase their healthcare promises as mere rhetorics or just retort the arguments of the government in power. That is not a policy, right? That is basic argument. That is the difference between an argument and a policy. If there is a party which is contesting for the government, which is contesting the elections, they need to show you their policy and not just an argument about why the government is bad. Rather, they should portray themselves as what they can do if they come to government. Now, many of the people, while campaigning for elections, just make mere promises or mere rhetorics, which don't stand on actual ground reality. So that's where analysis comes into point. Policy followed by analysis. Now, supposingly a party's manifesto is its policy, you need to analyze that policy. Because, if you read through a manifesto, you'll understand that, this is a very good, very publicly appeasing manifesto. For example, that manifesto says that they will, if the party comes into power, they will allocate 6% of GDP of India to the education sector as education sector demands. Many of the parties have made this claim. But the basic analysis is that even possible and implementable in ground reality? How they will do it? Can they even do it? Or is it just for sake of promising? That's what analysis is. A policy is followed by analysis about whether that policy is implementable in its basic essence or not. Third part, credibility. When we go out to vote, mostly people in India don't vote for persons standing for a constituency, but they vote for a party which is going to be in power or the Prime Minister's face. But at the same time, we need to check the credibility of the person who is going to represent your own constituency in the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha, in the state assembly, right? If you know that this parliamentarian is not at all credible for that post, then you may give your vote to that party may come in power, the Prime Minister may come in power, but at the end of the day, your constituency may be losing out on, 5 years of development. So you need to keep in mind the development correlation of the center policy and the constituency policy of the parliamentarians and their hand-to-hand working. That is, once you analyze the policy at center, you need to realize that the person who is standing for your own very constituency needs to have a certain amount of credibility to correlate the center's policy to the constituency policy. And that is how development at center and at state or at constituency level work together hand in hand. Let's come to the third and the fourth part, that is debate and discourse. This is something which is very much missing in India today. We need to realize that debate is not something which we see today in newsrooms or on news channels. That's just mere shouting and rhetorics. That is not debate. A debate is bound and governed by certain rules, certain procedures, and the debate is what questions the policy, questions the analysis, questions the credibility, and questions the correlation, and gives you complete solid answers at the very basic essence of it. Now, supposingly a person A is standing for Prime Minister elections against a person B, but they have never come face to face against each other for a debate bound by a governor, bound by a moderator. Apologies. Then how will you realize if person A is better with his policy analysis and correlation or person B is? Election rallies may give you a certain amount of understanding of their know-how or interviews, but a debate in its all context is very dynamic and particularly good in this nature. So considering all this, we need to realize that there's certain level of changes which we as citizens need to ask from the political parties and the politicians in power, and secondly, there are certain things which we need to adapt before we go out to vote, before we think about what will happen to India for the next 5 years. Now, coming to the next part, that is on the 3 videos. Yes, I have received a lot of comments and asks and mails about what should the next video be. I'll be working on those lines. Till then, goodbye. Thank you.